Packing up, Major Thorne said, his smirk sharp enough to cut. Armory's that way. Regulations don't really bend for analysts. Anna finally looked up. Just once. Her eyes met his without heat, without challenge. Calm. Assessing. As if she were cataloging terrain, not a man. Temporary reassignment, she replied evenly. You know how investigations work, Captain. Thorne chuckled, shaking his head. Investigations favor results. Not hesitation. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Next time you think you see ghosts in the dirt, try trusting the people who actually fight. Graves laughed behind him, a low, ugly sound. Anna said nothing. Silence again. Weaponized. She finished securing her gear and stood. The height difference was noticeable, but irrelevant. Presence wasn't measured in inches. Enjoy the confidence while it lasts, she said quietly, already stepping past them. It has a short operational lifespan. That caught Thorne's attention. His smile faltered for half a second before hardening into annoyance. Watch yourself, Major. She didn't turn back. As Anna exited the barracks, Sergeant Vance's hands paused on his rifle. He watched her go, the faintest crease forming between his brows. He remembered the patrol. The silence that hadn't felt natural. The waybirds had vanished before they reached the village. Thorne had pushed forward anyway. Glory over caution. Outside, the sun was beginning to sink, casting long shadows across the base. Anna walked alone toward the armory, unarmed for the first time in years. Yet her mind was sharp, focused, replaying every detail. Disturbed soil. Delayed radio static. A reflection where no glass should have been. Whatever Thorne thought he'd buried with his report, was still out there. And it was watching. You break your opponent's will, Thorne finished, voice thick with sweat and self-satisfaction. His demonstration drew hoots and slaps on armored shoulders. The platoon ate up the spectacle the way desert dogs snap at scraps. For the men who lived by momentum, his lesson was gospel neat, decisive, physically conclusive. Anna listened like a student of a language she did not speak. The moves were crude answers to complex questions. She did not join the applause. Instead she watched the tiny details Thorne missed, the way his knee turned in on a feint, the shallow intake of breath before he forced a throw, the pride that blinded him to small mistakes. Discipline, she thought, was not raw force. It was anticipation and control. The difference between a man who reacted and a mind that predicted. When the session broke, a few of the younger soldiers clustered around Thorne, eager for tips and the reflected warmth of his approval. Graves swaggered through the circle, chest puffed, while Sergeant Vance lingered near Anna's shadow. Vance's face held that same quiet consideration he'd shown earlier, not loyalty, not contempt, but the slow arithmetic of a man weighing risk. He came up beside her and, hardly moving his lips, said, "He's loud. Doesn't he mean he's right?" No accusation, just a fact. Anna inclined her head, acknowledging the ally without making him visible to the rest. That night the base hummed with generators and the soft clink of maintenance. Lights blinked like tired stars. Anna lay awake on her bunk, the earlier dismissal replaying in her mind not as defeat but as a map. Thorne's report had holes, the timing of the smoke charges, the absence of any real follow-through, the curious flicker he described and then dismissed. Whoever set that series of false alarms had engineered a narrative for an audience. Someone wanted a patrol to go in and prove nothing. By the time the moon was high and the compound quiet, Anna had a plan that did not require permission. She would not charge into the village with guns blazing, she would do what she had always done: read the terrain of intent. She would go alone, at dusk, and let the place speak. If there had been a sniper lens, it would betray itself at twilight. If the soil had been recently disturbed, footprints or tool marks would still be fresh in the cool hours. Most importantly, she would bring back the kind of detail that the Colonel's world could not ignore, facts so specific they could not be recast as cowardice. She packed light: a small notebook, a civilian camera wrapped in a cloth, a compact NV scope she kept for personal calibration, and a resolve colder than the desert night. Outside the barracks, the wind had dropped, the base exhaled. As she slipped past the last sandbag checkpoint, a shadow moved atop a low tower, a silhouette that watched her go and did not belong to anyone on her manifest. It was enough to remind her of two things: whatever had observed the village was watching them still, and her quiet would have consequences far beyond the barracks aisle. Want me to keep going? I can take her into the village scene next. Stealth recon, an unexpected clue, or an encounter that flips everything. The shout cut through the panic, not a command, but a raw animal reaction that ricocheted off corrugated metal and sandbags. For a second the compound was pure survival instinct: boots scrabbling, voices overlapping, the sick metallic spit of secondary explosions as unexploded ordnance slammed into loose equipment. Anna's training tightened like a glove. She did not run. She moved with a purpose that turned chaos into immediate geometry. She slid behind the nearest berm, chest pressed to warm sand, eyes sweeping. The first crater smoked a short distance beyond the perimeter wall, the air tasted of burnt propellant. Thorn lay a few meters away, half-rolled, clutching his shoulder, cursing under his breath. Graves was already dragging a stunned corporal to cover. Vance was barked orders by others who snapped too, his gaze flicked to Anna and held. He didn't need permission to follow direction, he needed someone who could see the plan. Anna's voice, low and measured, cut clean through the noise. Medics to Sector 2. Watch for secondary devices, sweep the approach. 2 men on the tower, cover the west quadrant. Her words were short. Every syllable carried an implicit map: where to push, what to check, what not to touch. A corporal nearest to her repeated the calls into a radio, his tone steadier for having something to do. Men moved with the efficiency of rehearsed muscle: stretchers, radio checks, a tripod-mounted radio swung to life for counter-battery ping. She crouched by the smoking crater and scanned. The crater's edges were too neat, the charge buried shallow. Someone had wanted the explosion to be visible, frightening, but not catastrophic, a message, not all-out destruction. Bits of the casing told her more: plastic sheath fragments, an unfamiliar threaded collar. The trajectory suggested an origin out by the old irrigation tower, not the distant ridgeline where insurgents usually emplaced indirects. Someone was choosing their method: precise, economical, theatrical. Listen, Anna said, tilting her head. She closed her eyes and let the desert noises sharpen: the cling of a loose panel, the whisper of a compromised radio antenna, a cloth fluttering high on the far stretch of wall. Spotters don't shout after a round, they mark. She pointed toward the line of ruined buildings that led to the village. 2 men on the second floor window, east side. One has something: reflective optics. Move quietly. Vance's lips pressed together, he barked low and his squad melted into motion, careful, silent, the way people move when they know lives weigh on their steps. Thorn, pale with pain and sputtering indignation, tried to stand and be the voice of command, but the compound's attention had already pivoted. He reached for the radio and found his hand shaking. Anna, without looking at him, held up one hand. You were right about one thing, Captain. It is dangerous. That's why we survive. There was no triumph in the sentence, only the cold arithmetic of consequence. As the two-man team slipped toward the building Anna had marked, she kept watch on the skyline. In the broken window of the third house down, a thin sliver of glass caught the dying light, a brief, deliberate flash. Her chest tightened, not from fear but from confirmation. The village had been baited to produce a narrative. Someone had staged a demonstration of threat and then escalated it. Someone wanted patrols reacting in ways that could be filmed, reported, or exploited. When the squad reached the house and peered through the shattered frame, the scene inside was almost disappointingly ordinary: a drape snagged on a nail, a child's bowl overturned, footprints that trailed toward the back alley. But in the shadowed corner, half hidden behind a collapsed wall, a slim black lens reflected a pinpoint of the sky. Not a child's toy. Not broken glass. Very deliberate. The man with the reflective optic had not been a random observer, he had been a director pulling strings from the dark. Anna stood, the compound behind her alive with ordered motion, and felt the cold anchor she deforged earlier settle into place. This was bigger than bravado or a bruised ego. It was a pattern: staged warnings, theatrical withdrawals, escalation at showtime. Whoever engineered it wanted control of the story. And stories, she knew, could be weapons as lethal as any mortar. Want me to keep going? I can take the team into the house. Quiet takedown plus discovery. Switch to Anna's internal monologue as she unravels who's manipulating the patrols, or cut to a tense radio transmission that changes everything. Do you understand? Anna repeated, gripping the private's sleeve to anchor him against the screaming wind. His helmet rattled on his head, sand caked his lashes. He nodded hard. Yes, ma'am. She shoved him forward and watched him disappear into the brown churn, a small figure swallowed by the storm but carrying a clean line of truth.